This is our Monday edition of Faithful Voices in a Critical Hour, the Poll Chaplain Project, a call to serve. Thank you so much for joining us. And like I said, it's really great to see this crowd. And we know that there are people who are going to be watching on recording. It's fabulous to see so many people here and faces and names that are not so familiar with me. So thank you so much for joining us today. Again, this is a segment of our Faithful Voices in a Critical Hour webinar series that we meet the first Monday of every month. And we are so thankful to the Wisconsin Council of Churches for their partnership in the Poll Chaplain Program and to Reverend Breanna Illéné for joining us today, this morning. So before we get started with the Poll Chaplain Project, we'd like to introduce some of you to WIVEC and to Wisconsin Faith Voices for Justice. And please, if you have any questions, either write them in the chat or this is a small group, feel free to raise your hand and we'll try to answer them the best that we can, especially for those of you who are new to WIVEC and to Wisconsin Faith Voices for Justice. So WIVEC is an acronym for the Wisconsin Interfaith Voter Engagement Campaign, and WIVEC works to engage the interfaith community in the democratic process. This nonpartisan work can deepen understanding and strengthen ties among different faith communities. Certainly, the Poll Chaplain Project is a fabulous example of this. We also increase engagement in the electoral process and result in a greater awareness of the positive and proactive role faith communities can play in the public square. Again, the Poll Chaplain Program is such a fabulous example of everything that we strive for in WIVEC. Widespread voter engagement is needed to ensure that elected leaders will pay attention to the needs of all of their constituents, especially those who are least often listened to and who have the most at stake. And that is really the heart of where WIVEC works and also Wisconsin Faith Voices for Justice. So how do we accomplish this? What are our three areas of work? Our first is, of course, voter engagement, where we work with vulnerable populations, low propensity, or how we like to say high opportunity voters, student voters. And we also, because we are an interfaith organization, we help congregations reach out to their own vulnerable populations, those who may be in long-term care, those who are homebound, those who are out of state who still wish to vote absentee. So that's how we try to engage voters. We also participate in many opportunities of voter education, webinars such as this one and our entire series, which is again, Faithful Voices in a Critical Hour. We record all of our series, and thank you to Jill who's kept us up on our WIVEC website. All of the videos from the series are up and you can watch them at a time that's best for you. We also come to congregations and to interfaith organizations and try to speak on the best ways to get your volunteers activated. We have a newsletter that comes out every Tuesday afternoon. I am the editor of it. I am a former English teacher, so deadlines are very important to me. So that newsletter goes out every Tuesday afternoon, if not sooner. Our newsletter is really unique because not only does it promote what we do here at WIVEC, but it also promotes the actions of our statewide partners, such as Wisconsin Council of Churches and other nonpartisan Get Out the Vote organizations, as well as national webinars that we think are important to Wisconsin voters. And we also work in the areas of middle schools, high schools, university faith communities. And one of these days we will make good on the word summer camps. I almost had a summer camp that was needing some help on a rainy day, but they couldn't get the timing right. But we do work with all with voters in college, but we also work with those students in high school and middle school to get them to understand the importance of voting. And finally, we work on voter protection. First, through grassroots advocacy, strengthening our democracy through fair maps, and also working to educate our volunteers on the overreach of the branches of government. We very much use myvote.wi.gov to help people understand how, where, when they can vote, how they can use the power of absentee ballots, where ballot boxes are, how to vote early, and we advocate also for all of this as well as fair maps. And of course, one of our favorite programs is what we were talking about today, which is the Poll Chaplain Program. And Breanna will be our guest speaker on that. More on that in just a few minutes. Again, this is a lot of information to throw at you at a webinar. We would be thrilled to talk with you one-on-one, especially to those of you who are new to WIVEC. And we'll put up those links and those emails both in the chat and also in the email that we will send out to you and everyone else who was signed up for these webinars. That should come out tomorrow, no later than Wednesday. So please don't hesitate to meet with us, have a one-to-one meeting. We are all across the state. If we can meet in person, that would be great. If not, we're always open for Zoom. So that's a little bit about WIVEC. Thank you so much. And Breanna, if you give us a few more minutes, we'd like to throw the webinar to our executive director, Matt Canzera. And before I do that, I also want to introduce everyone to, if you haven't, to Jill Olson, our communications extraordinaire, who's put this webinar together. And if you've noticed that WIVEC's promotions look a lot better, it's because Jill's in charge of them. So thank you so much for that. And also we have two interns this summer and into the election season. That is Katina Macklin, who is working with us from North Carolina. She's been an intern with us for a few years on and off. And Sitlali McDonald, who right now is in Madison. And coincidentally, they both go to DePaul University. They're both going to be juniors, but that is pure coincidence. So Katina and Sitlali, thanks for all the help that you are giving to us to make all of our programming run smoothly. And speaking of smoothly, let's go to the smoothest voice in the business. That would be our executive director, Matt.
Wow. Wow. That's a lot. That's a lot to live up to. So excited to have Breanna on the call. She's doing such an incredible job with the Poll Chaplain Program, along with Rhonda and Jill. So I take very little credit for anything you're going to hear today, but I'm the executive director of Wisconsin Faith Voices for Justice, and I don't want to take up any more time, but we're an interfaith organization that connects people of faith and congregations to the work of justice. Two of the main things that we do are WIVEC, which is our democracy work, and the Dane Sanctuary Coalition, which works to protect the rights of immigrant community members, specifically in Dane County. But we do a lot of other things as well. You can check us out at wifaithvoices.org. But with that, I'll pass it back over to Rhonda to introduce our incredible presenter for today.
All right, thank you so much. Yes, it is such a pleasure to introduce Breanna. Breanna is our ally. She's a friend. She's everything that you want in a partner here at WIVEC and with Wisconsin Council of Churches. So I'm going to read her bio, and please excuse any mispronunciations I have because the first sentence, it's a doozy. So Reverend Breanna Illéné is the Director of Ecumenical Innovation and Justice Initiatives at the Wisconsin Council of Churches, where she helps build strategic relationships and broaden opportunities for ecumenical engagement. She leads the council's advocacy program, working to engage churches in policy on local, state, and national levels. She has an MA in social justice from Loyola University Chicago, an MA in Christian education from the Garrett Evangelical Theological Seminary, and an MDV from the Lift School of Theology, and is an ordained elder in the United Methodist Church. She lives in Madison with her spouse, three children who are all adorable, and a rescue pit bull who's also pretty cute too. So, Breanna, thanks so much for joining us. Feel free to talk a little bit about the Wisconsin Council of Churches if you'd like. And thank you so much for being our partner and the lead organizer in the Poll Chaplain Project.
Sure. Thank you, Rhonda. Thanks all for being here. I see a bunch of familiar faces, so glad to see you all on screen. If you're not familiar with the Wisconsin Council of Churches, we connect 23 Christian traditions and ecumenical partners and interfaith partners to do the work of building church unity on behalf of the most vulnerable. And one of the many areas we work is in democracy defense and elections. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about the Poll Chaplain Program. This is meant to be an overview. And then there'll be like, if you decide to sign up, then there'll be a training in October is the plan. But this is just for you, if you are just thinking about if you want to be part of the Poll Chaplain Program, this is where you get to ask all your questions. So to keep myself organized, I have a PowerPoint. So as we said, the Poll Chaplain Program is a program that's has been put on by the Wisconsin Council of Churches and the Wisconsin Interfaith Voter Engagement Campaign. We've been doing it since 2020, kind of mounting big campaigns during the big elections every other year, but we've also done some smaller pilot program just this last April. I think we had 15 to 20 people out, and sometimes it's much larger when there are larger elections. So I'm going to go kind of do an overview, but again, if you've got questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. Um, and so First is, what is a poll chaplain? A poll chaplain is someone who is out on the ground on election day, kind of as an extra set of eyes and ears. They are meant to be a welcoming, kind of de-escalating, calming presence. They are people who often have trust in their communities. This is why we've reached into faith communities. Knowing that, like, in our communities, there's mistrust around elections. There are people who have questions. There are concerns about elections. And so, how do we get trusted individuals on the ground to help bring the temperature down? How do we build up faith in our elections, trust in the electoral process? And so, poll chaplains are one piece in this whole ecosystem, which I will talk a little bit more about, but one little really important piece in election protection, because there are so many groups across the state who have been working for years, building relationship for years to help make our elections function. I will say, before I got into this work of working with our poll chaplain program and some of this election protection work, I always thought it was, oh yeah, you go to the poll, you fill out your vote, and then it gets counted and we're done. It's a little more complex than that. And we have seen that in the last few years with attacks on our democracy of no, there's a process. There are lots of checks and balances. Our elections are this very safe, like there's just a lot of pieces. And there's this whole community of folks in our state who are standing up to help protect that and to help make sure it functions well. And this is one way that people of faith can step into that space and serve. And I try to get pictures of our poll chaplains throughout the year. So you may see familiar faces if you know folks who've done this before. So how does it work? It is very simple. If you sign up to be a poll chaplain or a poll chaplain assistant, we're going to talk about that in a minute, you will be assigned a polling location, and we collaborate with you on that. There are some people who say, oh, my church or my faith community is a polling location. Can I serve there? And we say yes. There are some people who say, I'm really interested in going to, we've had campus ministers, and so we put them on campus because that's kind of their community. There are people who say, I serve in this city, but I'd like to travel. And we can do that. And so part of the sign up process is there's a place on the registration form that you can write notes and tell us to say, this is my desire. And we also are in collaboration and conversation kind of in the sign up process to help get you where you need to be. It is really flexible. You can choose your own hours. We do not say, okay, we need people here from 9 to 3. Instead, we just encourage you, ideally, it's best to be when polls open during the lunch hour, kind of right after the work hour, 5 p.m., or at the end when polls close, and pick times in there that work for you. And pick as many hours. Some people will go out for a good long stretch. Some people say, you know what, I can only serve for an hour or two. That's fine. Our goal is to just get as many people out as possible. And then, as I said, this year, we are doing what's called a poll chaplain's assistant. We have realized in the past we often had two clergy who worked together, which was great. But our goal this year is to actually expand the program. And so we are recruiting people who are not clergy to also participate. And so there is a way, if there's someone in your faith community that has said, oh, you do that thing and it's really cool and I want to help out, this is an opportunity to invite them in, to invite them into the process, to say, hey, we want more people at the polls. We want people out. It's also a great way if, hey, you have a church leader or a faith leader or someone you want to have a conversation with, say, hey, All right, on November 3rd, let's meet at the polls for 2 hours and we can have our meeting as we stand out in the cold together. I don't know. I just like to multitask. You don't have to do that, but it is an option. And so you both will be trained in the process, and there'll be kind of distinct roles of like, okay, the poll chaplain will maybe be a little more facing, and the assistant will be one who's gonna help assist or make phone calls should phone calls be needed. And so that's something that we are looking to you if you decide to serve as a poll chaplain to help recruit some people. Find someone else in your community that you might want to spend a couple hours with. And if you can't find someone, we will also be doing some recruiting and can pair you up with a new person too. So, how do we equip poll chaplains? First is we give you training. We're not just going to send you out cold. We will train you, and I'm going to talk about what that looks like in a minute. We will equip you with some gear. You will get a hat that says either clergy or chaplain. The poll chaplain assistants, I think, will just have a bright hat to kind of identify them. And then you'll get a vest that says poll chaplain on the back, just to try to make you visible, to say, okay, you're not just this person standing out, but you've got a role. And then we invite people to wear whatever represents their faith tradition. So if you have a clergy collar, if you have just various identifiers for your faith, please wear those. We will provide placement. We work with some partners that are in the election protection space. And so we have people who are monitoring and kind of saying, oh, here there are some contentious elections. Here are some places we are concerned with. Here are places that the lines got really long 2 years ago. And so we're working with them to help figure out where do we place people. And so there's kind of this whole team behind the scenes that when you get the email that says, hey, go to da 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 da, there's a team of people that have thought through that. Um, on election day, you will have local support. We create a signal channel that you will be invited into that will be connected to me and Rhonda and some of our local democracy defense partners and all the other clergy chap or poll chaplains out there. And so we also want there to be a little bit of community just to be like, hey, I'm at the polls, or here's a funny picture, or here's a thing, and share stories so that you don't feel alone. But also, if you should be called on, if something should happen, that there's immediate response from someone who you have seen on Zoom or possibly met in person that can help navigate what needs to happen. And sometimes the responses are, hey, like this, I hear that they ran out of ballots, and is someone working on that? Or, hey, there's this concern about access for people with disabilities. Can we work on that? Sometimes it's the line is really long and we need pizza. There are people who do that. I was telling a friend in Michigan about this the other day, and she was sharing a story. She's a pastor, and she happened to be at campus and was a like non-trained poll chaplain. She was not planning on it and just stepped into it. And she's like, "Yeah, this pizza just appeared like from heaven." And I said, "There's actually organizations that do that work to help support people who are in line." And so part of being a poll chaplain is you are part of this network that we can connect the people, like the needs that arise, we can connect to that and help get you and the people at polling locations resourced. You are part of a bigger network in this. I know Rhonda and I sit in a lot of these meetings with election protection folks and democracy defense folks, and you would not believe the number of time poll chaplains are mentioned. They feel support, like the people in this network say, oh my gosh, we're so glad that there are these poll chaplains out here. We're so glad. Hey, do you think the poll chaplains would be willing to watch out for this? Or what does it mean that we've got poll chaplains in all these little towns and all these big cities across Wisconsin? And it's brought up remarkably a lot. And it's an incredible gift that the faith community gives to this wider network of, I mean, there are lawyers, there are election observers, there are all sorts of people. I forgot to say, poll chaplains are typically outside. So they're kind of outside the polling location, usually about 100 feet, or you're required to be 100 feet away, kind of welcoming people, greeting people. And so they're actually another layer of defense or like eyes on the ground when there are maybe observers inside. And so we kind of are a balance to that. And you are part of something that is bigger than just one person at a poll chaplain or at a polling location. You're part of this bigger network and this bigger project. So, if you decide to be a poll chaplain, we will make sure that you are trained. We don't quite have the date set. We are working with our partners to get them. But the goal is to have training dates announced in the next couple days. Our goal is to offer live training twice, a daytime training and an evening training. They will be repeated. Um, and then if you are unavailable to make the live session, you are welcome to watch the recording. Our goal is just that you do watch the training and you are equipped because we don't want to send you out there without having equipping. The training will talk about the elections and election process. What is a little bit about like the nuances of where maybe some points that there are concerns. What does it look like to have elections, to count the votes, to do this process and get people who were elected seated? There will be a little bit of de-escalation or active bystander training. What does it mean to have conversations with someone who maybe is agitated or someone who is maybe opposed, like seems intimidating? And so, how do we equip you to be grounded and ready? Um, we don't we don't tell you that your job is to intercept people or to do that work if there is someone aggressive. There's concern about ICE and federal agents at the polls. Your job is not to like go up and be confrontational. Really, your job is to be eyes. You can engage, but also you will be equipped with phone numbers to call immediately and to get resources in of people who are more equipped, to people to access lawyers, to access people who are ready to have hard conversations. Um, and so it's this team effort, and poll chaplains are a part of a team, but we will give you a little bit of training just about being able to be grounded in case something should happen. And then the third component that is new this year is ICE verifier training. There is some concern that there may be ICE or other federal agents may be deployed at the polls. And this is really one of the key things where poll chaplains come in because all the other election observer programs are inside polling places, but poll chaplains are outside. And so, should there be federal interference at the polls, poll chaplains will be the first eyes on the ground. They will see people pulling up, they will see trucks. And so you will be equipped with numbers to call and know what to do. And we'll have kind of told you what does it look like? What do these trucks look like? What might be the things to look out for? So you will be equipped with that information. So I've referenced this a little bit, but it's a big question that people have. Why are poll chaplains important? One of the things I've said to people when you're a poll chaplain is, may you have a boring day. Our hope and joy is that, yes, I see Renee, like, yes. Our hope is that you stand out in the cold and are like a little chilled for a few hours and you're a little bored because that means it's all going well. And that is the hope. And it's sort of hard too, right? To recruit people to be like, hey, can you go stand in the cold and be bored for 2 hours? But that also means everything's working well. And the important thing is that small chance that something happens, then we have people ready and equipped. And so poll chaplains are just that or another set of eyes on the ground. As I said, you are the people who are outside the polling locations, kind of the first folks who would see if something happens. You are the people who can provide a peaceful presence. Some of my colleagues in small towns, they have been out and they're just the clergy in town to be like, hey, so and so, welcome, glad you're voting. It can help make polls even or voting joyous of like you're seeing your neighbors, you're saying welcoming. There also is this idea that you are one piece of this larger puzzle. And so in the storytelling, we often talk about, hey, there are 100 polling locations with poll chaplains. We have the faith community is out. The faith community is active in our elections. The faith community cares what happens in our democracy. And so one person is one point in this bigger story. And you are helping to build the story for us to be able to say that, hey, we've got 200 people on the ground. You are also someone then who is equipped should something happen in our election process. Should, people in your community be like, oh, they snuck in ballots or, oh, these things happen. You can say, you know what? I spent 4 hours standing outside the polling location and I just saw people going to vote. Hey, I actually have a lot of trust, and this is what I know about the election process. If something should happen and there's a call for some rapid response, you as a poll chaplain may receive an email from me or Rhonda to say, hey, you know what? It's a week after the election and there are questions at the canvas and we are looking for volunteers. Would you be willing to go go to this space or go help support your clerk? Not a requirement. You are not necessarily you are not obligated to do that, but you might be our first call to see if you're willing to volunteer. You're just someone we know that's primed and ready, and you were out on election day. Um, Clergy and faith communities are often trusted messengers in our community. You have spaces that meet on Friday or on Saturday or on Sunday or other days of the week. You are in conversation with people. And so it's those conversations over coffee or tea too that you can again help. These are the things I've learned about the elections. This is what I'm doing. Oh, hey, you're really nervous about elections? Did you know that I'm going to be out at the polls on Tuesday and be there? Yeah, your clergy person is going to be there. I'm helping this process. And so it's just this bigger story that we are part of. As I said, our goal this year is to have 200 poll chaplain and poll chaplain assistants out. Our goal is to cover 100 polling locations across the state. This is very achievable. We, in the past 2 years ago, I think had 75 poll chaplains. And so we're just doing a little more this year and broadening the table. And so if you haven't if you have colleagues who might be interested, this is part of it too, is we need help building the network to say, how do we make sure that we have Menominee covered? I'm lifting that up for now. How do we make sure? And so how can we make sure our community is covered? That's actually really helpful. I have a colleague who said, oh, I talked to every one of my clergy colleagues in our small town, and we're all going to do this together and make sure that we're covering the sites. And so it can be this community project. And we here at WIVEC and the Wisconsin Council of Churches are here to help support you. And as Rhonda said, if you want to get involved beyond poll chaplains, there are ways to do that as well. So the last piece, as I stop sharing my screen, I can drop in the chat. We do have the registration form open. And so you are welcome to sign up. We've been kind of holding it back a little because we want to get through the August election first. And so I don't want to blast it out there before we get through August. But then kind of following, I know in our end, on August 12th, we were ready to get rolling and start sharing that out. Jill is on it with the registration link. Thank you, Jill. So I think we can now open it up. If you have questions, feel free to come off mute, or if you're not able to come off mute, feel free to drop something in the chat.
So, Breanna, I have a couple of questions that people have asked me in the past, and I can ask a couple of those now. But please don't feel shy to ask your own question. So, I think I'm not sure if you covered this. This is sort of a 2-point question. Can poll chaplains move between sites, and are they allowed to serve by themselves?
So yes, we have had people who say, I want to serve 2 sites. We've also had sometimes on the day of, we'll assign people a site, and then we get calls from our partner to say, hey, we actually could use a poll chaplain here. And so we will lift that up. Again, nothing is required. It's not all right, we need you to go here, but it's hey, if you're going to go out at 5 p.m., could you actually go to this site? I know 2 years ago we actually got a poll chaplain, or got a request and then filled a request for a poll chaplain who went to, um, it was called a boiler room, which was the space that some of our democracy defense partners were working. These are people who are like monitoring and helping kind of do that response work. That there was a lot of stress in the room, and they said, could a poll chaplain come and just like hang out and kind of offer this like presence with us? And so one of our colleagues went and showed up and hung out in this like stress. They probably had a less boring day because they were in a room full of people, but they were a room full of people who needed some care and just some listening ears. And so, yep, they can move around. Again, as I say, it's all optional. And then the other question was, I miss.
Can they serve alone?
Oh, can they serve? Yep, we have had people serve alone too. Our goal is to have a partner. Just one, if there is a concern, it's better to have a person. Two, we want you to have someone to chat with. But there are some folks who've also just served alone because calendars or that sort of thing. So,
Right. And one thing, we use the word boring day, and I totally understand that word. What I found is that a lot of the poll chaplains, while they felt as if they weren't they didn't have to do any major actions or even minor actions. They found that there were a lot of people who thanked them for being there or who asked them, who are
mhm,
you? What are you doing? So your presence there might not actually be engaging with the clerks or with, heaven forbid, a voter who's having issues that might seem, dangerous a bit to themselves or to others, but just that engaging with the voters. People, a lot of chaplains say that they spoke with voters. And one common question that they were asked, and I do want everyone to be prepared with this, and I'm sure it'll be part of our training. Breanna, is one question that they are asked sometimes at the polls, especially by people who might be a bit skeptical, is if you how is a poll chaplain at the polls not an example of the separation of church and state, which of course the Wisconsin Council of Churches, WIVEC, and Wisconsin Faith Voices for Justice, we all defend the separation of church and state.
mhm. Yeah. Well, they are an example of separation. You said not an example.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Just want to be clear. Um,
Thank you for
yeah, it's the that clergy are people in our communities. We are very clear on there's no proselytizing. There's no like this big like come to our church, come to our synagogue, come to our mosque. Like we are there as community members. And so non-proselytizing, non-partisan, and that is really clear. And if someone were to do that, there would be a big problem on our end. We are there as community members. And so that sense, anybody can be at the polls. And so, yeah. Did you have another question, Rhonda? I think you had a few.
um yeah, I guess I have one more because again, these are since we've been doing this for many years, Brianna, we've been doing this since 2020. I'm used to hearing these questions, as are you. And the last question I get is, how do the election clerks feel about the poll chaplain presence? Um, and that would be my last question.
Yeah. Well, so I would say the majority of them are super on board and grateful. They are grateful to have another set of eyes on the ground, grateful to help um, build that presence of the like our elections are safe, our clerks are doing a good job, that sort of thing. If you are not aware, there is extreme pressure on clerks these days. It is not a fun job. Um, they are threatened, they feel unsafe, they are under high pressure, high scrutiny. And so many of them are asking, how do we lower the temperature? How do we build more trust in our elections? And so the majority of them say, yes, we want this. I think there are some that are a little skeptical just because there are bad actors out there to say like, oh, who are these people? What are they doing? And so we work with some of our partners, our voting rights partners and election defense partners who have direct relationships with clerks. So there's some behind the scenes work happening that will have a little flyer that will go out to every clerk. There's a clerks conference that like there'll be poll chaplains will be mentioned. We also invite poll chaplains kind of the week before to send an email to your municipal clerk and to say, hey, my name is Pastor Breanna, and I'm going to be out at the polls, and I am thankful for all the work you are doing, and I just want to know that or you to know that I'm going to be out there. So again, like because we can communicate out and these nonprofits can communicate out, but a clerk is more likely to be like, oh, I know that person, or this is someone from my community, rather than a brochure from just an organization. So we try the best we can to communicate out and build this trust. Um, but it's also a space, and we're actually going to be doing some work in this at the council to encourage people to be doing that relationship building ahead of time. Meet with your clerk, get to know them. Many times they are people who we, they might be in our faith community. They might be the person who you see in the drop-off line. You might be part of Rotary. Like they're people in our communities. So let's build this community together. Do we have other questions? Yeah.
Hi. So I'm an intruder. I am actually not in Wisconsin, but I know about the Wisconsin Council of Churches work and I adore what they do. And at a General Assembly for the Presbyterian Church in Milwaukee, I talked to several people and heard about this. So I'm in Illinois,
Mm.
just outside of Chicago. And what you guys are doing really interested me. So I guess my question is, I would love to do the training,
Mhm.
right? But I cannot necessarily see my own church as a polling place. And we're actually, especially in Alton, where I'm at, with a majority Hispanic population, really worried a little bit about how things might be and thinking about what it looks like for the faith community, at least in this community, to be present in forms outside. And so I want to say I'd love to serve in Wisconsin, but there's also a bit of a selfish reason for me being here and protecting my own community. So even if I don't sign up, I guess my question is it okay for me to lurk and and learn
Yes.
some things?
Yes. Go ahead, sign up. And just write in the thing, say, I'm in Illinois and I don't need a polling location.
Okay.
But then we can have your information and share the training with you. I will say that I just got off a call with some folks in Michigan who are also exploring a program. And
Okay.
so, like, and there are some national organizations who also do a program. And so, if you've attended their training, that's fine. Like, better, more training, the better is what I
Great.
say.
Great.
And we can all equip ourselves. And then I think for us, I would say just be in communication.
Absolutely.
Um, to say like, nope, I'm actually in Illinois, and we'll be like, great, go for it.
Okay. Thank
So
you.
yeah. Um, there's something else on there I was gonna say, but I don't remember what it was. So I say more the merrier, more equipping the better. We're all needed. Any other questions?
So there's a Grow. You're aware,
Mhm.
Grow. They now have a grassroots organizing of Western Wisconsin, starting some elections stuff protection there. Is that somewhere where I could find like potentially assistance? Or how, or I want to keep the clergy piece as needed, but I guess I'm just curious about if that could be a crossover or possibility.
I will say Bill's on my list.
Okay.
But I think yes, I think it's just the check-in. I'm guessing that they're doing probably a more inside polling locations election observer program. This is a big guess. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, I'm not sure
Um,
either. I've talked with their observer and I could see a possibility either way,
yeah.
especially being those outside eyes. So,
And I know
um,
there's some concern of really wanting some coverage up in that district.
yes.
And so I think be in conversation with them.
Okay.
Um, chat with them. And I think it's for all of us to figure out where what our role is. And
Okay.
so like for you to figure out, like have a conversation with them. You can also
Okay.
like choose to serve with them and come to our training.
Oh,
And that was actually what my brain wasn't thinking, but I've already had
mm,
people say, "Hey, like I can't serve as a poll chaplain, but my church is a polling location. Like, can I
mm,
attend the training?" Yes.
oh,
And just communicate with us so we know
mhm,
not to assign you. But I think
sure.
that's helpful for us to know that we could say, "Hey, we had 200 people on the ground and 30 other people went through our training additional."
Sure.
And so like let us know.
Okay.
We're that this is part of the advantage of with local partnership and those of us like we know each other, we're on the ground that we can help be flexible and figure out what works best.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? If not, I'll throw it back to Rhonda for closing us out.
Sure. Breanna, thank you so much. What a great introduction to the Poll Chaplain program. We promise there's a lot more information to come for those who do sign up. So we always like to close our Faithful Voices in a Critical Hour series, as well as any other webinar we have, first with thank yous to all of our participants. Thank you so much to all of you who attended the live session. It's a gorgeous day, so thank you for taking an hour out. Thank you to everyone who is taking some time out to watch this on recording as well. And of course, thank you to Breanna and the Wisconsin Council of Churches. Breanna, thank you for a great presentation. And of course, to the council, thank you for a wonderful partnership. I think this is our third time going at it together, I think. So that's fantastic. We're dotting our I's, crossing our T's, and we really, I think we're on very solid footing for this 2026 election. I'm excited for how it's going to go. And we also like to end our webinars, our meetings with calls to action, and our calls to action are simple. Please share this webinar with people who you think may be interested, whether they are clergy leaders or lay leaders. Please share this with people who may not be on our email lists, who may not have signed up. We want to get the word out to areas that we may not have as strong a presence, and maybe that's your area. And also, we want to reach out to people who aren't necessarily already in our choir. So this is a great start. Please share the link when you receive it tomorrow or Wednesday. Please, if you are interested in WIVEC, ask for a one-to-one meeting with myself, with Jill, or with Matt. Sign up for our weekly e-news blast. I promise it comes out once a week. We don't send out too many messages other than that one email once a week. And continue to engage your neighbors, your friends, strangers. As Breanna said, Get Out the Vote has really changed, and since when I first started voting, and many of you started voting, it's now not enough just to vote. Now we need to encourage our friends, encourage the strangers who are our neighbors, perhaps, to get out the vote and have them understand that their vote is powerful, and also to come out and protect the vote, whether it is the day of or perhaps in later days. And Breanna, thank you so much for sharing how the poll chaplains helped to ease the tension in what we call the boiler rooms, because the people who work those rooms, I don't, so I have to admit, I'm a poll worker, so I'm working the polls that day. But the people who work the boiler rooms, they are really working democracy, and they are the front line of democracy. And the poll chaplains there, I'm glad that their presence was felt and appreciated. Fantastic. So we will put some links in the chat, but do not feel that you have to capture all of them, because all of the links will be sent in an email to you. So thank you so much, everyone. We're going to give you 15 minutes back in your life. Everyone loves when webinars and online meetings end a little early, so I don't want to keep you anymore. Thank you. And again, Breanna, thanks so much. Take care, everyone.